Since January, doing that methodology, I've gained 10,000 followers and $250,000 to the bottom line revenue that we can trace straight back to LinkedIn.
You're actually considered a top entrepreneurship voice.
You chose LinkedIn because there's less friction for the business conversation at the end of the day, right? For the business to thrive, we have to have business conversations.
Like Facebook sucks when it comes to pages and everything. It's so hard to do Facebook that way.
What's your phone number so I can send you some surprises?
Right. Let me give you my debit card number too while I'm at it. Podcasting for me has nothing to do about getting my voice and name and brand and everything out there. For me, it's all about networking and just the cool people that I've met because of podcasting.
How do you manage being distracted from your own tasks, right? Or going into a rabbit hole of consumption?
So what I do to engage on the platform, and this is a fun hack that your listeners can use.
We've got some
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Content is Profit. Fonzie here, and our guest behind the scenes. You can't see it just yet, but we'll see. How's it going,
Hopefully
man?
the editor doesn't put them side by side while we're doing this part.
Mava, this is for you, not. Mava's MVP over here.
She's awesome.
She is amazing. But today we have a guest. It's actually the second time here on the show. I think it's about 200 episodes ago that he came on. I don't know the number exactly, but we're going to put it right here below, which is insane.
I know. It's been a while.
It's been a while. And we saw, this person is, founder of Success Champions, which focuses on fostering collaboration among like-minded entrepreneurs in various B2B service-based industries. He's been 4 years doing an incredible summit, the Badass Business Summit, which, by the way, we saw some of our community members in there and crushing, and we had a really good experience with them the first time that we actually engaged. It's 5 best-selling books. Fonzie, what's up?
That's pretty impressive.
Do you have a best-selling book?
I do not have a best-selling book yet.
And he's done over 500 interviews, which is incredible, right? He's the master of LinkedIn. He loves drinking rum. Another thing that we have in common. He's not Venezuelan. He should be, but just saying, he's definitely the social god on LinkedIn and a fellow creator. Please welcome our dear friend, Donnie Boybe.
Oh yeah, I want the applause.
Let's go, Donnie.
What's up, fellas? All right, so send me some Venezuelan rum, or tell me which Venezuelan rum is. I'm really stoked to try something out. So but you got to tell me what I get my hands on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Santa Teresa brand, but Diplomatico is also.
I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah,
but
those words mean nothing.
I'm gonna need teleprompter for that one. Man.
I will send you definitely the links so you can actually.
We'll have to send you a bottle up to the farm in there so you can drink it while it gets cold here. December coming on. It's a perfect time for a cup of rum. Donnie, dude, so nice having you back. We were talking about your magnificent beer still remains, so I'm happy for that.
Trying to keep up with you. Yeah, dude, when you see somebody else who has a beard that looks that good, Fonzie, you just were like, man, I hope I look that good wearing a beard. So. But my wife always tells me I can't change it, shave it off because she's scared of what's underneath this. So we just keep it.
Yeah, I've seen these videos where the dads have like this massive beard for like the kids are like 5, and then they completely shave, and the kid walks in like do not recognize him, start crying, going crazy. Yep. So that's probably what you've experienced if you decide to shave that off.
My favorite one, like the dad shaves and he's got a towel over his face, and the little girl's he drops the towel. Little girl's like runs away because she has no idea who he is.
She's petrified. Like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
I think my question is, how do I do, to manage the whites that are coming out here to make them look even like yours? Is it also false of entrepreneurship? Like, what caused that right there?
Well, the gray hairs are because of entrepreneurship. But I originally started, I was getting 2 like gray streaks right now. I'm like, oh, it's going to be so cool. It's going to be 2 grays and then a dark in the center. And then I woke up one morning and it all went great. So I just run with it. Run with it.
Cool. I just needed some advice. I got like 2 in here, 3 that every time I look at them, I'm like, wow.
Don't pull them because they'll multiplicate. I think that's like breeding for them is yanking one out because they're going to come back in 3 or 4.
Yeah, they're like Hydra. You call one.
Yeah. Mini white hydras. Dude, Danny, every time we chat, we reconnected a few weeks ago, I think, and it's always a pleasure, man. And I see you in platforms like LinkedIn, specifically, obviously, on the content side of things, you help a lot of B2B people. You obviously do physical events, which is a feat on its own. So we can chat a little bit about that, because a lot of people that listen to us, they might want to put it something like that, so they might want to know that. But there, just this morning, for example, I was returning a ton of messages on my LinkedIn, right? Like that's one of probably the inboxes that I, neglected the most, in a sense, which probably I shouldn't. And you probably tell me a few reasons of why not. But, I probably returned about 100 messages. 95% of those were cold pitches, right? And I think that's one of the things that keep people away from that platform, in a sense of around engaging, right? It might seem as a very fake platform for some, but I'm curious, right? Like you move a lot in LinkedIn, right? You have quite an incredible follower in there, and your networking skills there. That's where you live.
You're actually considered a top entrepreneurship voice.
Yeah,
that's a tag that LinkedIn gives you.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive,
right?
So yeah, go ahead. I'm curious about your thoughts on the platform.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this year, I decided LinkedIn was going to be my platform. So I really didn't get proactive on it until January of this year. I was like, all right, I was on doing all the social medias, and truthfully kind of half-assing it all, because I was trying to do all those social media. So I was on TikTok, I was doing Instagram, doing Facebook, trying to do LinkedIn, and none of it was really working. And I kept hearing all these people saying how much business they were getting off of social media. And I'm like, well, the reason mine can't be working is because I'm trying to do all the freaking platforms. Yeah. So I said, screw it. Let's do LinkedIn. Let's go all in and see what it looked like. So I started in January committing to putting out a post every day, Monday through Friday, and then spending an hour a day commenting and engaging on people's stuff. So all in, my LinkedIn is really about an hour a day, but I run 2 monitors. Right. So it stays up all day long, so I can reply and engage and to any comments and things that come through. Since January, doing that methodology, I've gained 10,000 followers and $250,000 to the bottom line revenue that we can trace straight back to LinkedIn. And what I've found is, yes, there's a lot of the spammy DMing, cold pitching, but the bigger my following gets, the more that goes away. Like I don't get it to the level that I did when I wasn't proactive on the platform. So I still get them. I get a ton of right now of Asian women saying, "Hey, could we be friends?" Right? More and more.
You're like, "What's your phone number so I can send you some surprises?"
Right. Let me give you my debit card number too while I'm at it. But it's been a really cool platform. I like it personally for 2 reasons. One, everybody's ready to get into a business conversation. It's not like on Facebook or Instagram or anything where you've got to nurture along before you get into a business conversation. Right? Everybody already kind of expects the question, what do you do for a living? Because it's already on display. Yeah. So that helps a lot in the speed at which you can bring on clients and talk to people. But I also like it because there's an etiquette, if you will. Like on Facebook, you got to listen to people talking about their breakfast and, what they're having for dinner. On Instagram, you got to get past all the dudes flexing and the chicks in the bikinis and all that, which is amazing to look at. Don't get me wrong. But for me, social media is all about business. Yeah. So I just like that the content on the platform is not what somebody had from business or for breakfast. There's an educational component almost to every post out there. Yeah. Good and bad, but you're learning while you're networking.
Man, Donnie, I want to highlight your commitment to first consistency, right? And then being in the platform, right? A lot of the people that we have conversations with every single day, it's like, well, how much time maybe are you a consumer of content, right? Do you engage? Do you have conversations? And most people, or at least the trend that we've seen is they really want to delegate that to somebody else in a sense, or they don't want to be in the platform, or they haven't been enough in the platforms, right? Like I think I consider myself a content consumer, like in general. I love that fact. I remember thinking way back in the day, I was like, oh, how cool would it be to make a living out of watching stuff or content, right? In a sense,
Right.
And we do that. We produce stuff. I think like it comes natural to us in a sense, but a lot of people don't have that. And you say you have those, to the tactical of having 2 monitors, one running LinkedIn the entire day, right? And you being aware of that. So my personal concern, I think, to that is, how do you manage being distracted from your own tasks, right? Or going into a rabbit hole of consumption or going into something like this? Like, how do you manage that logistical part of it?
I'm not really that big into consumption. One of the things that I had to do, and it was really this year, was to stop consuming almost altogether. So I don't read books anymore. I'm not listening to podcasts. I'm not watching YouTube videos. And the reason being is my company is still in growth phase, right?
Yeah.
We're not hitting scale yet. We're still growing. We're still building. And what I found is the more I consumed, the more shiny object syndrome came, because unintentionally I'd read a book and then all of a sudden that was like, oh my God, that's the answer. That's the thing I've been looking for. And then we'd go 6 months in that direction. And then I turn around and look back and our company hasn't moved forward because we're still doing the stupid other thing over here versus coming back to the basics of blocking and tackling.
Yeah.
So I turn off consumption. So what I do to engage on the platform, and this is a fun hack that any of your listeners can use, I have a sheet with literally 40 to 45 names on it. If you go to like somebody's profile and you click on their profile and you scroll down, you'll see a section that has post, articles and the like. If you click on post and you then click see all post, okay, that's going to take you to their page with all their posts. If you grab that URL to right there, I have a Google Doc where I'll put a person's name and I'll just drop the link right next to it. So I have these 40 to 45 people that I'm going to go engage with every day. Right? So I don't have to consume, if you will. I'm going to look for very specific content that I can gauge on. So I break the list down. Like I have 10 super influencers, right? Like people that just have these monster followings, but they're not like Gary Vee type people. These are people that have built their influence because of LinkedIn. Like somebody like Aaliyah Turner is on that list. Someone like Liam Darmody is on that list. So these are not names that are like household names, but they've really dominated on the platform.
Yeah.
Right. Then I'll have a list of 10 people that are trying to grow a following. Like you see them show up regularly, and I've only found these people through looking through other people's content. And then I've got 10 people that I'm fascinated with. Like I want to learn from them because the content they're putting out is very educational in nature, but I don't think will derail me. And then I just got 10 random people that I just find. And so what I'll do is before I post, I can go comment, engage on 20 of these posts.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm doom scrolling LinkedIn. I'm going straight to these links and commenting. Then I post, and then I hit my next 20. And in that hour, I've done the engagement, grown my following, and I can watch the number of followers I gain. I can watch the number of people that are into the comments, and I can comment. And because of this rhythm, I don't really get derailed off of anything I'm doing because I'm not going out and consuming.
Yeah.
I'm really controlling how I'm doing it, if that makes any sort of sense.
I really like that framework and kind of like those blockers that you put to stay focused. I think that's definitely something that really challenges people. And we actually joked about that the other day, which was, randomly during the day, you're like, oh, I gotta find this person's contact or whatever. I'm going to look them up on Facebook real quick. And you type facebook.com. And as soon as that homepage hits, you forget what you were looking for.
Yep.
Like 30 minutes later, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? What did I came to look for? And you totally forget and you go back and you're like, oh, I came to, and we were like, we need to create a product, the social media blocker 3000, literally a paper that you just put on top of your screen with the navigation bar open and you just type facebook.com and you cannot see anything. Because it is, and it's built for that. The platforms are built for that. So I really like that. And it also reminds me of something I heard of a while back, the way you kind of like set up your, the people that you interact with, regardless of whatever people think about Ty Lopez. I heard him saying once that you should kind of like the rule of 33%. And I might be butchering this a little bit, but he said 33% of the people that you should interact with should be kind of like above your level, you know, you seeking mentorship, learning from them. 33% should be at your level, right? So you can kind of like mastermind with them and talk and grow together. And then the last 33% should be people that you are mentoring, right? People that are kind of like on the growth stage. So I kind of like notice a little bit of that. Obviously, I feel like your mindset is mostly on who has audiences, who's going to grow audiences, right? Like, do our audiences overlap in a way that I can leverage that, which in a way, it relates to a concept that we've talked about here, which is the value of the ladder of influence, right? Which is kind of like how we base, in a way, the people that we bring onto the podcast, right? You got like those level A influencers that if you manage to tap into their audience, it's going to be huge for you, right? Because obviously you're going to hopefully get a lot of people to follow you back and, you know, start paying attention to you. So I really like that.
Thanks, dude. One, I stole the idea. I didn't know this was a Ty Lopez thing, and I don't know much about Ty, but there was a guy on Twitter that put out this thing. He's like, here's how you grow your Twitter following. And he kind of broke down that kind of system. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense, but I don't want to do Twitter. Let me do it for LinkedIn. And that's where, you know, I dialed it in for there. But the danger of commenting on super influencers like your Gary V's and maybe Ty Lopez, I don't know enough about him, or like your Joe Rogans, anything like that, is the amount of notifications you're fixing to get. So like if I drop a comment on Gary V, my notification feed is going to fill up with so-and-so just commented, so-and-so just commented, so-and-so, and it's all on there. Now that creates a distraction to my rhythm. Right. So what I've learned to do is if I do comment on like a Leah Turner post, which she's got like 160,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is just monster for LinkedIn. Then I will make sure she's the last one that I'm going to comment on for a while. So I can comment and then I can walk away from LinkedIn because I know the next 10 to 20 notifications I'm going to get are just going to be other people commenting on her post.
It can be super overwhelming, right?
I'm sure.
I remember having a conversation with Steph, one of our studio clients here, and she went on a fishing trip. And she was telling me about like this location that she got into, and I was asking about like the business itself, like who did it, and it turns out that it's this guy that used to do it as a part-time in on weekends, right? He has his day job, and then he would take people fishing in was it Louisiana or So then this YouTuber came in and recorded his experience and had a massive following, right? And posted about the experience, and all of a sudden he's booked for like 3 years down the road. He quit his full-time job and now he's doing this. And you know, at the top level, you know, it's like, oh, this is great. Like he was able to do his own business. But what's curious is that Steph was telling me about like how unhappy she like perceived this guy to be, right? He was like kind of going through the motions, not really enjoying the experience, right? And he thought like he was kind of forced to do this because of the following and maybe the need to have a revenue stream or owning his business. But he didn't seem like he was actually enjoying, you know, the job. Like it was taking a toll on him, right? And we were talking about the cost of, you know, virality in a sense. And obviously that's a very extreme thing, but even for social, right? Like, or leads, you know, we just this morning with those messages, right? A ton of them were like, hey, are you interested in more leads? Are you interested in more? If you get to, you want to get 6 clients, you know, tomorrow without them knowing what type of businesses do I own in a sense, right? We have a service-based business. So, you know, there's some resources that need to be assigned when a client comes in, right? So there's a speed of growth in a sense on that side. With social is very similar. What you just said, it's, let's say you have an influx of comments. Do you have the time capacity to actually get back at it and pay attention to some of them and pour 100% of you into the answers that you're going to do? So I think your point is so valuable, right? And we have to start looking at the consequences of maybe going viral with some of this, and are we prepared as a business to, like, even from a very basic like comment and answering and responses to leads to then business, right? Can we handle that influx of it? And I think it's super interesting. How do you manage that?
Well, so, you know, I was trying to do TikTok for a little while, and I did have one video go hit like 100,000 followers.
Was it the one where you were like dancing and stuff? That one?
Yeah, no, you'll never see one of me dancing. Yeah, no, dude, I am a country white dude. I can't even line dance. But the video was me talking about veterans and a stance I have on veterans, and it went bananas with the comments. And I can be honest with you, I could not keep up with the comments. It was just impossible.
Yeah.
The beauty that I like about LinkedIn, because I've got this thing in my head that I'm wired that I have to reply to every comment, right? That's just, you know, I've geeked out when somebody like a Gary Vee has replied to one of my comments. I'm like, oh shit, Gary just fucking replied, right?
Yeah.
And so the one thing I like about LinkedIn is even the top influencers don't get an abundance of comments. So there's not a lot that if you do take off, I mean, I've had some pretty cool posts, but nothing to an overwhelming standpoint. And I reached out to another kind of influencer friend of mine, Ariel Lee, who's fascinating to watch on LinkedIn. She's an Edward Jones financial advisor and has 60,000 followers on LinkedIn because she just does really, really well. So with, you know, thinking about a couple of posts I had, I reached out to Ariel and I said, Ariel, how the hell do I keep up with all these comments? And she gave me the smartest, stupid hack in the world is you just go to LinkedIn and you click on your post and you just change it because it always shows the most relevant comments to your post. You change it to the most recent, and that's going to pull up any comment you haven't commented on. So what I do now is I'll go back to a post 2 days ago, just change it to recent to make sure I haven't missed any comments.
Yeah.
But I also keep a cheat sheet of comments to my side that I can copy and paste and tweak. So I'm not having to always think through every response.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people comment the similar type stuff. Oh, this is a really great post, which is like the dumbest comment on the face of the earth, right? Because what am I supposed to say other than thank you? Right. I can't engage back with you. But there's some commonality in a lot of the comments that you can, you don't want to just copy and paste your response. But it gives you a framework to start with.
Yeah. I like that framework.
That's helped me a lot.
Yeah. It is valuable resource, right? Your energy, your attention, your mental bandwidth, and having to come up with for the comments that deserve it, right? To like comment something back of value and kind of like establish a conversation is mental bandwidth that, you know, you might need that day for something else later on. So I like the fact that you have that resource next to you. I'm curious because obviously you have your podcast, right? You do a lot of episodes, you have a lot of conversations with people. And I can see here in your LinkedIn, you have some multi-purpose content from your podcast, right? Clips from conversations. Obviously, you have some longer form text in there. And I'm curious because after spending a year posting consistently, right? 5 days a week, that is, and I did a little bit of math in there. That's about 200. You said, how much was your bottom line? Like 250?
Yeah.
That's
250K.
250K. So that's pretty much about $1,000 an hour that you're making by, you know, spending an hour a day on LinkedIn.
Like that math.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? And I'm just curious because there's a lot of testing, right? There's a lot of things that you might see what's working, what is not. So why don't we share what type of content has been working better for you, and also what topics? And did you started very niche? Did you broaden up a little bit your topics that you were talking about? How do you go about finding all that?
So, and what's fun for me about talking about this is I'm not a LinkedIn guy, right? You know, so this is what's really fun. I mean, I love being on LinkedIn. I love the platform, you know, but it's not my main business focus. But to answer your question, Richard Van Der Bloom, so it's VanDerBlum, is probably the smartest mind on LinkedIn. This guy literally studies the LinkedIn algorithm nonstop. And so he is constantly putting out different things that he's trying, studying, doing, and information behind it. It's been a lot of fun for the last year to follow his content, and he's taught me quite a bit about LinkedIn itself. So what I will tell you is right now, as we're having this conversation, the thing that's working the most is personal posts with pictures. So like last week I put a post out where my parents had 2 dogs on their farm have babies. So they have 11 puppies on the ground. And at one point we had all 11 puppies in this freaking mound of puppies, right?
Wow.
And I put a post out there.
Yeah.
But every one of my posts is still going to lead to a business conversation. So it's not going to be just about the puppies.
Yeah.
But any post where a selfie or a picture is attached to it and the picture matches the content is working really well right now, because it's a scroll stopper, as they call it. As people are, doom scrolling on their screen, a picture often grabs attention. The second type of post that used to be lead dog was carousel post. It's now a second or third for me, and I actually haven't put a carousel post out in a while. And that carousel post is just where you uploaded a multi-page document to LinkedIn, and it creates like a flipbook style thing on there. So with the carousels type of post, you have to have a really solid, genuine hook. So not like a marketing hook, but you got to have a reason for people to want to go read the carousel.
Yeah.
Video has been my worst performing content for me. I'll do it every once in a while, just a test, and it continues to be my worst. And I think it's because I don't put out much video content. I think if I put out a lot of video content, it would be more proactive for me. But the most successful thing on our company page right now is highlighting our clients. So if we put out a post and we tag our clients and we brag about them and some of the things we're doing, those tend to work really well on the company pages. And by the way, company pages are coming back strong.
Awesome.
We're seeing a lot more activity on there. And the company pages are the best place to promote an event and use the LinkedIn registration page. So if you're going to do an event, you allow LinkedIn to do the registration page, and then you'll collect anybody who signs up for the event. They can opt in or opt out for you contacting and follow them up with. So it's a cool way to build an email list, is to put events out on LinkedIn and get a bunch of people registered to attend. You hope they all show up, but only if 100 people register, probably 20 are going to show up, right? But you get the contact information for all 100 of those, and it'll tell you when you download the spreadsheet whether you can email them or call them. So that's been really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love how the gap is being bridged, right? Because a lot of the conversations that we've had is, you have this ecosystem in whatever social platform, right? And then you have to move them into your own funnels or your own pages, right? To collect that information. Yeah. And I love that,
Facebook sucks when it comes to pages and everything. It's so hard to do Facebook that way.
Yeah. And then, you get banned for ads and different things depending on what your messaging is. It's very interesting. But like you said at the beginning, right? You chose LinkedIn because there's less friction for the business conversation at the end of the day, right? Yeah. For the business conversation, for the business to thrive, we have to have business conversations. So I love how, and this is totally new because LinkedIn has been a safety net platform for me in a sense. We just post the same thing that we have on other platforms. Personally, we've connected a lot more in Instagram and Facebook, and this is why we're having these conversations, right? Can we revisit for 2024? And I love that you've laid out a very simple framework in a sense to execute. Not easy, right? You can, it's laid out, but the consistency is what's gonna do it. And I love.
Let me tell you about Leah Turner really quick. I don't mean to jump in on you, but I think it's an important point. So I watched Leah go from about 900 followers to 160,000 followers in about a year.
Wow.
Now, Leah is probably one of the most authentic people in the world, the way she shows up. The most fascinating thing is when she hit that following, she wasn't on Twitter, she wasn't on Instagram, she wasn't on any other platforms. She is now.
Yeah.
Right? But what she did is once she got to that 160,000 on LinkedIn, she just made a post. She goes, hey, I'm going to go give Twitter a try. And what happened? Droves of people just followed her straight to Twitter.
Yeah.
So I would tell you guys, I wouldn't worry about LinkedIn so much. If Instagram and Facebook are working for you, I would go get influencer status on that platform, stay there, double down, go all in on that. And then when you get a massive following for the platform, which for LinkedIn, a lot of huge followers, on Instagram, you better have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers to be influencer status. On LinkedIn, you can be about 50,000 followers and be influencer status at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So wait till you get influencer status and then come play over in this other playground, because otherwise you'll still half-ass it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's been my experience.
Here's where my curiosity is piqued, right? So a little background, obviously, like this year we acquired this podcasting studio. So like the local play has been very significant the last like three months with like people coming into here. We have like leadership of companies coming and recording internal podcasts for their stuff, like it's been interesting to start having those like local conversations with like leaders in our city, right? In the past, like the last 4 years, we've connected with incredible people all over, I guess, the world in a sense, right? But here's everybody that we connected with, they're in our industry in a sense, so they know the stuff. So here's an example. This guy, he owned a comedy club. He's part of a bunch of boards here in Jacksonville, different companies, and he's part of the board in the Chambers of Commerce, right? And he was just waiting to be interviewed by one of the people that come here in the studios, and we started talking podcasting and content in a sense. The immediate response from him was like, hey, I need you to come and talk to the chamber about this stuff. Like there's a lot of misinformation and miscommunication, and they don't know, right? So to me, that seems like a really interesting opportunity, right? Because not only for the studio, but maybe for the fractional teams in their companies, right? And I guess they're a little bit further away from like the current messaging that we have, but it's also a massive opportunity to provide value. And so it's been an interesting experiment to have those conversations here in the studio with like what's happening at the ground level with companies here, right? Because our belief is like every company needs to have control of their marketing messaging and maybe even their production, right? Like you take charge in yours, right? With your messaging and your commitment to content. And I think a lot of people are missing the mark, right? So to me, it's like, okay, where do I actually connect with those, right? And to me, like it goes back to LinkedIn, like you said. And this is why I was so excited to have this conversation, because it opens the door, right? So there's, on our content, I guess, strategy, and this is something that we're probably going to talk before the end of the year. We have the podcast content that it could be like very wide in a sense in the content world, and that's promoting the podcast as a product, and then the podcast develops some relationships in a sense. But we haven't really sat down and be like, we're actually going to sit down and write a thing or a post or a LinkedIn or a blog post about the 5 benefits of podcasting, but for B2B, for example, right? That specifically, we haven't really dove into it apart from having this show. So I'm excited about the opportunities.
Well, I wouldn't do just one post, and I'm sure this is not what you're saying, but I would consider what's the overall campaign.
Exactly.
Right? Like how do we take this message consistently to the marketplace? Because people still don't understand the power of networking, and for me, or power of podcasting. Podcasting for me has nothing to do about getting my voice and name and brand and everything out there. For me, it's all about the networking. Yeah. And just the cool people that I've met because of podcasting and the opportunities those conversations have afforded me that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten into. I mean, I've keynote spoke at conferences because I was a guest on somebody's podcast. I've done some really cool private, getaway retreat type things where I was one of the speakers because I was on somebody's podcast, right? So there's some really, really cool opportunities. But I think most people, when you look at them on a social platform, when they're talking about podcasting, they're just trying to convince people to start a podcast. I think if you guys really come at it from the perspective of this is how you give a voice to your business, a voice to your idea, it starts changing the dynamics of what you're talking about. And it gets you out of that, let's convince them to start a podcast to let's help you get a voice for your business.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that.
I'm going to backtrack here a little bit. I had a question that has been, scratching my mind or something like that. I don't know what the
scratching your mind.
I don't know what the saying is, but
I don't want to know how you itch that, but
exactly. I itch it by potentially asking the question. If my brother allows me over here, geez,
Jesus Christ.
But last time we spoke, I remember you had a Facebook community, and you were fairly. I feel like most of your time was being invested into Facebook. So, like you mentioned before, I feel like you were spreading yourself too thin. You realized that, decided to go all in on LinkedIn. Great decision. Obviously, has paid off. I'm curious, though, because Facebook has that element of the community with the Facebook groups, and I know you were very active inside of your Facebook group.
Yep.
What happened? First of all, that's an asset. So what happened to that asset? Did you let people know that you're going to move on? Are you still kind of like keeping up with that in some sort of way? And what is your view on having those sort of communities, right? Because I know right now newsletters are popping up, right? Newsletters inside of LinkedIn are fairly big as well. So would you rather, move your focus completely, or you're still kind of like, maintenance mode for this Facebook group that you used to have?
So the Facebook group is still there. It's I like the phrase maintenance mode. I'll drop a post in there every once in a while. I'll approve people in there, but we are doing nothing on Facebook. We might promote an event every once in a while, but I came to the realization that there are Facebook entrepreneurs and then there's LinkedIn entrepreneurs, and they are two different damn people. We were finding that more of your entrepreneurs that were hanging out on Facebook, which is more of our target audience, your B2B service-based businesses. And more of the people that were hanging on Facebook were broke. The people that were on LinkedIn, they had money. And there's even been some studies showing that the average income of people on LinkedIn versus Facebook and Instagram, I mean, there's a huge, I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a significant difference in personal income from people on LinkedIn versus a Facebook or Instagram. So I was watching, because I was dabbling on LinkedIn towards, since 2020, really, when COVID and all that stuff hit. I was doing a lot more on LinkedIn, but didn't really take it serious till January. But I was watching friends that were all in on LinkedIn and how much traction they were getting in their business. And then I was comparing that to what I was getting on Facebook, and they were just dominating. Yeah. And I felt like we were treading water on Facebook because Facebook made an announcement at one point that they were going to move all groups to paid groups, that you could make money because of a Facebook group. And as soon as Facebook puts money to it, if you don't, you're going to get squashed. Yeah. So I moved all of our private groups off of Facebook altogether. And we went out and we purchased Circle, which is a membership community thing. Yeah. Yep. And we moved all of our private groups in Circle. Because I wanted to control the platform versus having Facebook control our fate. Yeah. And at that same point of doing that, we started really looking at, okay, if we're going to pull that off of Facebook, where else are we going to go? And that's when I made the call to start doing LinkedIn this year. Nice. LinkedIn groups still suck. They're not getting any traction. The newsletters are doing okay. When they first came out, the newsletters were amazing. Now they're a little bit slow. But I do like the fact that that's the only thing on LinkedIn that goes off the platform. So if you do produce a newsletter, it actually, if people signed up to join it, whatever email they have signed up for their LinkedIn account, they will get emailed that newsletter. Okay. So I like that portion of it because it's an off-platform touch point. But you can collect that email right on your CRM or whatnot. Yes. So that's pretty powerful, but like anything, for that newsletter to work, man, it's got to be consistent as hell. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, like you mentioned, right, like picking a channel, right, picking a medium, right, like LinkedIn, Facebook, go all in on that. But then within the medium, then you have different channels. If you say, right, you got LinkedIn Live, you got the newsletter and whatnot. I like what you've been doing. It seems like you've been kind of like testing different modalities of content, and you found your winners, and you're sticking with those, being consistent on the long run, which again, lesson number one for anybody listening is that commitment, and it's a long-term game, right? If you're going to do any sort of content, at the end of the day, it's long-term. Yeah. Well, and probably one of our you're right. One of our fascinating things that we're playing with right now is the live streams. So we have a StreamYard, and so every Monday we're going live on about 30. There's 4 of us, and we always have a guest, and we broadcast that out to multiple different channels. That's been pretty fascinating to play with. LinkedIn by far is dominating all of our live channels.
That's amazing.
Well, I guess maybe Content's Profit might have to go be streamed live on LinkedIn as well, maybe.
Sounds good. I'm down. Donnie, as we wrap up, I have a couple questions for you. Is one, what was your expectation when starting this strategy? Right, a lot of people that we have conversations with, they might have an expectation that might be a little crazy, to say the least. And then they get very discouraged, right, as they move forward. And then what is your strategy the same for next year?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I wanted to find out is could we actually predict revenue from a platform? Could we show up, put out enough content that we could actually track back to revenue, which I don't want to say we figured it out, but we know how to track the revenue from it, right? I can't say, hey, put out this post and it's going to get you X amount of dollars, right? I don't think anybody can.
Yeah.
But we've definitely seen where we could consistently put out content, do events, do the different things, and track it back to revenue. Moving forward, it's for me. I look at it this way: Tony Robbins has 101 companies that are tuned to $7 billion. And if you ask most people to name one of his companies, nobody can name one of his companies, right? Tony has one main job in this world, and his job is to be the face of Tony Robbins. So, and to keep as many people coming in and filling in his 101 companies. So for me, that's my primary focus is how can I keep our message? How can I keep our brand? How can we keep the name Donnie Bovine out there in public enough so that we can continue to support all of our clients, continue to build our cool community of B2B, service-based professionals? How do we continue to build that world? So, I'm constantly building the company right now. So my biggest primary job is to be the face out front, and the team picks up all the pieces behind the scenes as much as possible. So that's our overall aim with everything we do.
That's awesome. I love it. What would you recommend, people as an action point, as they gear up for next year and they want to tackle, a social platform or content in general, right? Like, turning that content into profit.
Probably one of the smartest things anybody ever taught me was you should take and write down every significant moment that's ever happened in your life, good or bad. And next to each one of those significant moments, write the lesson you've learned from it. If you're going to choose a platform like LinkedIn, take every one of those stories and teach it, right, from the perspective and put a business spin on it.
Yeah.
So some of my best posts have been the one post I did where we were year 2 doing the Badass Business Summit. And while the summit was going, I was $40,000 in debt. The hotel was asking for a check that I could not cover at that point. And I was, here I am trying to support as many small business entrepreneurs and everything else. And I remember I walked off stage and walked around to the backside, and friend of mine, Dr. Stevie Don Carter, happened to be there, and I dropped my knees in tears because the stress and everything fucking nuked me, right? And I've shared that story out there because now we're going on year 5 of the Badass Business Summit. We started doing champion summits, and now Stevie runs the Badass Business Summit for me. She's also travels around the U.S. doing the champion summits with me, and so she's been a key pivotal moment. But me being able to share that moment of my business to others, giving them kind of, hey, we know it sucks. You're not doing this crap alone. Nobody has the freaking easy button, really gets people to lean into your content and allows you to be seen as a normal person. The Instagram side of things where everything's sunshine and rainbows and everything's, amazing all the time for people. I like showing the more the dark side of business and the real side of business.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the whole point of that is those lessons that you can teach other people will build your content for you and allow you to find your voice out there on a platform. Yeah. Because it's your stuff, it's your knowledge, and people want to hear your words. Great phrase. I don't know who said it originally. It's not mine. Is people want to learn from your scars, not your gaping wounds. So teach the things that you've actually learned and gone through, not the things that you're currently facing that are kicking your ass.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that. That's a pretty cool framework. I have actually something I want to add to my personal list. Last night, I was targeted by my brother, his wife, and my girlfriend on game night, So I'm definitely gonna make a post on how that made me stronger. Sometimes you're gonna become the target when people perceive you as the lion, as a top dog that is about to take it all. They're just gonna go against you, but it's okay. You just gotta, endure these hardships. So I appreciate that,
I
Donnie.
want to clear the record. I did not gang up on anybody yesterday. I did beat him at poker 2 nights ago, and then I also beat him yesterday, but I did not target him. It was a group effort coordinated by my wife and your girlfriend. But
So, Louis, you should then write a post about this is what it looks like to be in a victim state of mind when you think people gang up on you in a game.
yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Donnie, man, as always, is amazing to have these conversations with you. Thank you so much for sharing, your lessons and what you've learned in the platform. I'm definitely motivated to create a framework similar to yours in the platform that we see fit for us today. But I think apart from just LinkedIn, you just open the eyes for a lot of people in whatever platform they want to go into, right? At the end of the day, we're very big fans of frameworks and execution and consistency. And it's so awesome to see that it yield these incredible results for you and your company. So super excited to see what's coming for you next year and your company continue to grow, man.
I appreciate that. And guys, if you're still listening to us, you're still hanging out with us, do these guys a favor and take a screenshot of wherever you're listening and watching this and share this out on social media, whether it's this episode or any of their other episodes. Tag me in if I'm there, man. I will find it and come comment, but it's a hell of a way to say you appreciate, what's coming out of these guys' studio. And it also lets them know that this is the kind of content you consistently want to hear from them. So it helps them bring in better guests, better content series. So it's a cool way to show appreciation.
Absolutely, Donnie. You're like you're like the Liam Neeson of social media, right? But rather than go in and get people in trouble, you're like, I will find you and I will comment on your post. But for people here that are listening, man, Donnie, you just share some what we call #golden boulders. They're like golden nuggets, just way bigger. You talk. First of all, this keeps on it goes with the theme of poker. You're like go all into one platform, which you did, right? LinkedIn for you. You kind of share your $1,000 per hour LinkedIn framework. That you can use that, Donnie. You can use that if you want. You also share what type of content is working, and I love that caveat that you said. It's like, hey, look, I'm not an expert, but this is what's working for me, based on repetition, right? That data. And of course, that difference between Facebook and LinkedIn entrepreneurs, which is huge, on how you made that decision to, put your focus into one place. And you ended up with that little golden nugget on the framework on how to create content based on your stories and the lessons, which was absolutely amazing. So Donnie, Thank you so much.
Oh, my honor, guys. My honor. This is always fun to hang out with you too. I don't know what's going to happen when you shave that beard off, so I'm going to be looking at a different person, but
I'll send you a picture.
I like it right now.
You're like imposter.
I'll send you a picture in a week, actually, week and a half, because my girlfriend's family, they own a donut shop. They're about to open their 5th one. And I'm going to have to, get down and dirty in there, make some donuts. And, code doesn't allow you to have a beard. So we'll see.
Oh, nice.
Sweet. Guys, with that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is Random Donnie here. Help you make a decision and go all in a single platform. Please don't forget to share this episode. Give him a follow or he will find you. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.
It is a smile.
1, 2, 3. Sweet. And we're good, man. And I hope you and your family have an incredible Thanksgiving, man. And
yeah, you guys do the same. Freaking thanks for having me on, boys. Y'all stay out of trouble.
All right, take care.
Take care, Donnie. See ya. Todo bueno. ¿Grabaste esa por separado?
Sí.
Al final hubo un delay ahí, pero...
Este es el main de nosotros.